She reaches into the linen bag, lifts a single stack of photo prints flagged with a tiny note, and sets it deliberately at the table's end, where the empty chair used to be. The rest of the family's forks hang a fraction above their plates, as if the sudden weight of the gesture holds them there. Her fingers brush the edge of the note. For one who never needed convincing. And the youngest exhales, the sound a small clearing of tension. Everyone else freezes, eyes tracking the line of the table, waiting for someone to explain why this feels wrong already. Her hand lingers long enough for light to catch the creased edge. Then she lets the prints rest beside the breadbasket. The youngest releases a breath. Not relief, but the kind that lets the rhythm resume. A tiny nod to the way things settle after a tremor. Metal sings as forks kiss porcelain again, the scrape a familiar metronome. The father, whose patience feels carved into his jawline, rests his palm on the tabletop to ground himself, then lifts a napkin in the practiced motion of a man who says grace more out of habit than devotion. Leanie, across from him, reaches for the gravy boat with both hands. The sauce swirls before she sets it down without speaking, eyes flicking toward the empty chair and back to her plate. The youngest picks at salad, creating the delicate confession of greens that always precedes the main course. Light from the west window traces the wallpaper's cream stripes and pale wreaths their mother insists on every fall. And despite everything, the house feels the same. Its 2 stories, the humming refrigerator, the clock over the sink, ticking steady seconds. No one dares break the silence, but they move through the motions as if the morning had been ordinary. Marin slides a battered shoebox across the table. Its lid rattles against the rim. Dust motes flare in the afternoon light as Theo drops a stack of report cards beside it. "Third grade writing," he says, tapping the one with a red star. "You stamped it with Ari as proof that trying harder pays off." And nobody ever asked what we needed after that. Marin's fingers trace the faded handwriting. The silence from the back of the room hangs heavier than the smell of old paper and citrus cleaner. Ari lifts the trophy still wrapped in thin bubble wrap and sets it on the counter. The kitchen window's reflection glints off the plastic, splitting her face into a hard line. "They kept saying I was the example," she says without looking up, lips pinched. "Mom told me to keep doing it because it proved the standard." Her voice shakes as she places the trophy down so carefully the plastic doesn't crinkle. "I heard them, Theo. I heard them expecting my next win to make what everyone else felt okay." Theo leans back against the sink, elbows on porcelain. "So while you were busy staying perfect, we were taught to applaud in silence?" He pulls a photo from the box. Marine mid-tier at a recital, Ari smiling in the wings. Every time they said, "Look at Ari," any question about what we needed stopped in the air. Marin swallows, nails pressing into the table. "We weren't invisible," she mutters, "but we had to pretend we didn't see the gap when the teacher said, 'The rest of you should take notes.'" Ari's smile cracks. "Maybe I never realized how loud that made everything else sound." She lifts her head, meets Marin's eyes. "You were right there, and I was the one everyone pointed at. I didn't mean for it to feel like I was the only voice that mattered." Marin's hand hovers over Ari's, then settles on the table. The space between them hums quietly. Theo slides the photograph back into the box, then pulls out another, the 3 of them at a county fair, grinning. He sets it beside the trophy. "We don't get to undo it," he says, "but we can stop pretending nothing stuck. Help me pack the rest, and this time we set the tone. Say, Ari led us here when it matters, but we'll also say what we needed." Ari nods once, stiff but steady. Marin curls her fingers around the bubble wrap, smoothing it. The trophy sits between them, weightless now, and in the narrow beam of late light, the three siblings line up memories and next steps on the table. Report cards, the photo, a handwritten note that says, "We are not the same story." They all reach for the tape dispenser at once and start sealing the box together, the edges clicking in sync. The attic feels smaller with the three hunched over the crate. Dust motes hang in the beams, while Ari drags a cardboard box from the back, the lid squeaking like a protest. Theo already has a stack of old newsletters wrapped in twine, his fingers tapping the top item when Nia reaches out, as if steadying him. The air holds the sharp dust and paper smell of the artifacts they promised to keep talking about. Ari pulls a thin envelope from the box, its edges softened from years folded. The handwriting across the front is their mother's. The blue ink has faded to gray. She slides it across the table and says, "This is an 8th grade report card. Remember? The one they kept comparing." Her mouth goes dry when she sees the note tucked inside. Nia opens the letter, eyes tracing the words they heard 1,000 times but never saw. Ari's performance has set a bar we hope the others will reach. The sentence lands with the weight of a dropped book. She doesn't lift her head. She slides the paper back into the envelope, then pushes it toward Theo, who lets out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Theo sets his hand on Nia's elbow, voice low. "They called it inspiration," he says, looking at Ari. "But I never got the parts where you were the standard without the rest of us being the comparison." His fingers close around the edge of a report card he hadn't shown them. They unfold his grip to reveal the teacher's note. "Nia needs to work twice as hard just to be noticed. Use Ari as a benchmark." He tears the corner off, the paper snapping in two. Ari's hand hovers over the old trophy between them. She picks it up. The metal is cold and familiar. The engraved plate glints, spelling out valedictorian. Her thumb trails the letters, and for a heartbeat she holds it like a lifeline, then places it back between them. "I wanted it to mean more," she says. "But every dinner was a recap of what I did, and no one asked what it cost." Nia slams her palm flat on the table, the sound sharp enough that Ari flinches. Ari grabs the note. Her fingers shake as she smooths it. "I'm sorry," she blurts, not looking away. "I thought I was doing what they wanted, but I never meant for any of you to feel like I was taking airspace." Nia exhales, softer than her racing heart. "I don't want apologies that smell like those dinners where they stacked my efforts beside yours." She leans forward. "I want to stop waiting for permission to keep talking." Theo opens the crate again, pulling out a small mirror with a cracked frame. He places it against the trophy. The reflection fragments their faces. "We said we'd speak up," he reminds them, voice steady now. "If we keep this stuff out in the open, the silences stop being comfortable." Ari nods once, hard enough her head snaps back. "Then tonight, I talk to them," she says, pointing toward the house. "I'm not going to let my name hang in the air if it keeps shadowing you. We'll bring the mirror with us if we have to." Nia picks up the calendar page, smoothing the fold with her thumb. "And I'll bring a list of the moments they ignored me," she says. "If they stop saying, 'Just wait until you're like Ari,' maybe they'll start listening to what we need now." Theo stacks the envelopes they've been sorting and ties them with fresh twine. "We'll leave these by the door," he says, "so every time they go in, they have to see what we saw." He slides the bundle toward them, the motion sealing their agreement. The trophy sits between them, but Ari has her hand over the base, and Nia leans into the table, fingers splayed. Dust still hangs in the light, but the air shifts, a little brighter, because they've taken the artifacts out of the box and put them where they can't be ignored. They stand together, the crate empty for now, but the lid resting against the wall like a promise. The scene holds tension, the words still raw, the cost still unfolding, but a quiet energy hums beneath their movements. They breach the silence again, and this time they move forward with it. Nia carries the folder of artifacts like a warning sign. The paper edges catch light as she walks through the front door. Theo trails behind, balancing the high school trophy on his palm, and Ari sweeps in last, with the decorated calendar page flattened between her hands. They set the items on the kitchen table in the order they agreed on. Report cards, letters with underlined phrases, the calendar page with bright stars penciled beside Ari's name. Nia slides a folded copy of the article with the headline, "Experts confirm hidden favoritism reshapes identity," into the center. The table becomes a battlefield map before anyone speaks. Dad looks up from his mug. His eyes flick over the spread, then to Theo. "Is this a meeting?" "It's a conversation," Ari says, not lifting her eyes. She picks up the trophy, sets it on the calendar page, and taps the plaque with her thumbnail. The same object we used to keep in the hallway so everyone could see which kid was doing well. Mom drops the dish towel and crosses her arms. "We were just trying to encourage you," she says. "You all knew we were proud." Ari doesn't speak at first. She pushes the trophy forward. The metal catches the light and throws it toward Mom's face. "Proud of what?" she asks. "Of the example you held up when we felt like we didn't measure up? Of the way this trophy meant I was safe and you could ignore the other two?" Dad reaches for the newspaper on the corner, but Theo slides it toward him. "Read it," he says. "The same experts we quote when we talk about chronic resentment. It's not just a feeling. It's a pattern that damages adult relationships if no one names it." Mom grabs the article, thumb tracing the title. "So you think it's my fault?" "They think it, and now we're showing you," Nia says. "We've kept speaking even when it hurt because we don't want you or us to keep pretending those old balances are inevitable. We've seen what happens when they go unexamined." Dad swallows hard. He looks at the calendar page again, the stars beside Ari's name taking up the margin. "I never realized how much this mattered to you," he says slowly. "I thought being proud would fix it." "There's guilt built into that pride," Ari says. "You were never asked what it cost us." Mom exhales sharply. "Then tell me what you need." Ari drops her hand onto the table, palm flat against the article. "Acknowledge it," she says. "Keep these artifacts where we can move them ourselves. Let Theo set his own standard. Let me say I'm not the only one who deserves to be celebrated." Theo tilts his head. "And let's schedule regular check-ins. Not a lecture, a space where we can bring other stuff when it comes up. We can't let this keep simmering because we were scared of making you uncomfortable." Mom nods, eyes bright with shame and hope. "I don't want to keep hurting you," she whispers. "We'll keep this on the counter. We'll meet." Ari's shoulders drop halfway. "Then prove it before it becomes another pattern," she says. Theo sets the trophy back down, right beside the calendar page, where the stars and metal touch. The table sits quiet for a breath, the artifacts between them like witnesses. They've already started a new rhythm. Speak, bring evidence, keep showing up. The room is no longer a battleground, but a space holding a promise. Scattered papers, bruised pride, and the start of a different way of being family. Theo slides a crinkled magazine article across the table. The edge bumps Ari's wrist. "This was in the 80s?" Dad asks, eyes trailing the headlines screaming about favorite kids and invisible damage. Theo doesn't answer. He pushes another sheet forward, a letter from Mom's own mother headlined, "Why you keep comparing me to you." Mom's napkin scrunches between her fingers. I was trying to keep everyone motivated, she says. But her gaze flicks between the three of them, waiting for a reaction. Ari leans forward, elbows on the table, the high school trophy beside her hands, like a silent witness. You keep saying you wanted what was best for us, she says. But when Mom congratulated only me, when Theo got keep up with Ari notes, it wasn't motivation, it was a wedge. Dad's jaw tightens. He lifts a hand toward the calendar page with the decorated stars, then pauses. You were all doing something. He starts, then stops. I didn't realize the stars meant more than just you keeping track. Theo presses the letter's edges until they fold. It was never just about grades. Every family dinner, you asked me, how's Ari doing? Like my own news report had to include what she'd done. He shoves a photo across the table showing Ari hugging Mom at graduation, while Theo stood to the side, clenching his jaw. Mom's eyes sting. I didn't mean to make you feel small, she says, but her shoulders dip, less defensive. I kept those papers out because I thought seeing them would remind me to celebrate every win. Ari's fingers curl around the trophy. Seeing them is one thing, she says. But we need check-ins that ask how we're feeling, not just highlight accomplishments. Dad leans back, then leans in. Then let's do it right, he says softer. No more, how's Ari? Or, what did Theo do? Just, how are you doing with this? Mom nods, eyes landing on Theo. We'll put the artifacts in the hallway, like you said, as reminders. Next Sunday we'll sit down, no distractions. And each of you says one thing you want me to hear. Theo exhales, the corners of his mouth lifting. And I'll keep asking, he says. If I feel ignored, I'm saying it right then. No more letting it pile up. Ari picks up the trophy, then sets it gently next to Nia's notebook. It'll remind us what we're doing, not letting those pages define how we treat each other anymore. Dad nods slowly. I won't push back when you bring these up, he says. Not anymore. The tension loosens, but the artifacts hum with the weight of what they've already revealed. Mom clutches the article, then tucks it into her apron pocket. A quiet acknowledgement that the evidence will stay visible in the kitchen, and the conversations won't stop. The siblings, standing now, gather the papers and trophy, stacking them like a promise. They move toward the doorway, leaving the table with a shared sense that these objects won't be hidden again. Mom and Dad watch, shoulders squared, ready to keep listening, this time without denial. The kitchen timer clicks off as Mom sets a bowl of popcorn on the counter. The artifacts, the decorated calendar, the article, the stack of report cards, still line the backsplash. Theo pulls a chair to the island, the scrape sharp in the quiet. Before we start, Ari says, flipping the calendar so the newest note faces outward. I want to add the college acceptance letter we hid in Theo's pile last month. It's part of the story, too. She slides the letter beside the trophy, aligning the edge with the calendar's border. The seal catches the light and scatters speckles across Dad's sleeve. Dad rubs his palm over his forehead. We saw it. It shocked me, he admits, voice rough. He drops his napkin into the bowl and reaches for the article. But this week, what stuck with me wasn't the comparison. It was Theo saying he still doesn't know if what he does matters outside of your reaction. That's on me. That's on us. Nia leans forward, fingers brushing the trophy. So this isn't homework, she says, tapping the table twice. It's a reminder that our identities aren't supposed to be arranged in a tier list. Theo still feels like he has to prove he's seen. Ari still carries the weight of being the one everyone measures everyone else against. With the letter beside the trophy, we see both of us. Dad breathes in slowly. I've been clinging to the idea that praising metrics where you shined would help the others thrive. But I kept flattening you. He looks at Ari. I hear you calling the shots now. I hear you saying you can't be the standard anymore. Ari's jaw tightens. Her fingers find the water glass edge. I don't want to be the benchmark, Dad. I want to be a kid who forgets we use our grades against each other. When you compare me, I start measuring everyone around me with the same ruler. When you hold up the artifacts, it helps you see the harm, but it also helps me see myself outside the scoreboard. The timer pings again. The check-in was supposed to end in 5 minutes. Theo pushes his chair back, standing. I'm making a list, he says, reaching for a sticky notepad. Immediate honesty, like we said. Next on this week's check-in, Mom, tell us one way you'll show you're listening that isn't just saying you are. Like going to Ari's room when she texts, not expecting an update report. Mom grabs a sticky note, writes, then sticks it to the fridge under the headline, Listening Actions. I'll go upstairs when Ari asks, even if it's during my show. If she says she needs space, I'll say, I can't be on call, but I'll be there tomorrow at this time. Instead of waiting for a perfect moment. Theo, I'll text you when I notice you acting quieter, not waiting for you to make the first move. Nia opens her notebook, jotting a small schedule. We keep the artifacts, we keep the stories, but we also keep noticing ourselves. I'll write down the times I stop myself from comparing. Like when Ari finishes something and I want to stack my own win next to hers. I'm going to say, that's not mine to carry. Dad reaches for the popcorn bowl, handing it to Ari. He doesn't look at the picture of young Ari holding a ribbon displayed on the counter. No future check-in will be about who did better, he says, placing the bowl down. It's about what needs attention right now. He nods toward the artifacts. They're not trophies, they're bookmarks. Ari lets out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She picks up the trophy, but instead of placing it back where it had been, she sets it beside Nia's notebook. It'll remind us what we're doing, not letting those pages define how we treat each other anymore. Theo claps once, the sound sharp. That's progress for today, he says. We keep showing up, no scoreboard. Mom opens her mouth and then closes it. She reaches across the table and places her hand over Ari's, the pressure steady but tentative. I'm still learning how to be in this with you, she says, the words simple as if she'd been practicing them in a mirror. Let me keep showing up. Ari doesn't pull her hand back. She doesn't say it's enough, but she doesn't say it isn't. She lets the silence fill the kitchen for a beat, the timer still softly chirping. Healing isn't done, but empathy has been offered. And for now, that's enough of a bridge to keep walking. The timer blinks 3 minutes until check-in, and Ari drags the stool closer to reach the magnet board. The new no-ranking card, already smudged with last week's fingerprints, gets another pop of blue from her pen. 1 minute, Theo says, palms flat on the counter, watching Mom shuffle a stack of index cards into the little bin labeled Feelings First. Mom hands a card to Nia. I'll stay on this, Theo, she says. The card reads, Listen for what's happening, not how it fits the scale. She drops it in the bin upside down, but Theo catches the corner, flips it so the brain dump side faces the room. It stays visible, Mom, he says. The air snaps taut. She nods, the corner of her mouth tightening, then relaxes with a slow exhale. When the timer chimes, Ari leans in. Today, I notice the trophy shelf feels lighter. She starts, fingers tracing the edge where Theo's acceptance letter rests now. But I waited until you could actually ask how I felt instead of assuming the trophy was the whole story. She taps the magnet board, where a small sticky reads, "Talk first, achievements next." Theo laces his hands, pushes his chair back so he's at shoulder level with Ari. Dad's voice cracks at the mention. I was afraid if I didn't start with accomplishments, I'd forget to praise the effort. He looks between them, eyes landing on the visible artifacts, then on the plastic card list Theo taped under the fridge handle. Check in. Stay present. Ask where they are now. Stop ranking mid-sentence. He stands, shoulders hunched, then straightens. I will start the check-ins by saying their names without numbers. The tension loosens as he says it aloud. Theo reaches into his pocket and pulls out 2 cloth bands he and Ari made last night. One blue, one green. If either of us feels the conversation veering toward rankings, we slip this on the table, he says, dropping the bands beside the timer. No silence, no excuses. Just signal, and we reset. Ari takes the green band first, spinning it between her thumbs. And I'll keep nudging when you're quiet, even if it's uncomfortable. She slams the band down once, the smack echoing through the small room. The check-in spirals into a tense moment when Nia starts to mention a scholarship essay. Dad lifts his hands. How did writing that feel? He asks, keeping his voice low, eyes steady on her instead of his own thoughts. Nia inhales sharply, then exhales with a smile that touches her eyes. Relief, not achievement. When the buzzer ends the 10-minute window, Ari reaches for Theo's wrist, squeezing once to signal, "You're seen." Theo squeezes back, then lifts his chin toward the timer. We keep this going, starting with how we're doing before the rest hits the table, he says, and the family murmurs assent. The artifacts stay where they are, and the bands wait, proof that the commitment already shapes the room. The kitchen table trembles with the weight of paper and cloth. Report cards with penciled circles, the magazine articles smudged at the edges, a calendar page stitched with bright thread. Theo's band rests over his wrist. Ari's band, bright against her skin, presses gently against the old trophy now lying beside Nia's notebook and Theo's college letter. Mom slides the feelings first card toward the center and sets the no ranking card by the timer, hands brushing the glass and leaving faint fingerprints. Dad reaches across, the promise of a visit still warm on his palm, and sits close enough for their shoulders to touch. They begin not with accomplishments, but with a breath, the question hovering in the air. The same one that has started each honest check-in now and forever. How did that feel?